Well, hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for another episode of GC Community Chat. We hope you are all safe and doing well and had a wonderful, safe Thanksgiving despite COVID. As you can see, I am by myself once again tonight. Mike and I have decided that with the rising COVID numbers, it's best that we stay in our own little bubbles for a while. So with that said, I'm hoping that Mike will be able to join us virtually once he can figure it out. Mike's not real technology oriented, so we'll see how that goes. So hoping he'll be joining us soon. But for tonight, we are pleased to have with us on the show Garden City Library Director James Lenze, and also joining him tonight will be Library Board President William Werha. As you may or may not be aware, there have been some, shall I say, public differences between the city and the library. Hopefully tonight we will try to clarify those differences for you. I'm not saying that we're going to resolve anything here tonight, but hopefully get a better idea of what the differences are and how they might be resolved. They'll also be here shortly to answer any of your questions that you might have. So make sure you put those in the comments section if you're watching us on Facebook. But first up is going to be Doppler Tom. He's going to be here with the latest weather forecast for us. I don't want to jinx it, but it's been kind of nice. It hasn't been bad at all. I'll also have the latest COVID numbers, which are not looking good, that's for sure. So grab your favorite beverage and join us for the next hour or so. We are live from Garden City, Michigan. Should be a good one. This is show number 507. It's Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. I am your host, Carrie. And also joining me tonight, co-host Doppler Tom Iwinski. Tom, how you doing?
Doing well. A little chilly tonight, but doing well.
Yeah, a little chilly. Not bad, though. We can tolerate it. We're Michiganians, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we want to thank all our listeners and followers of the show who tune in every Thursday night from not only here in our hometown of Garden City, but several surrounding communities as well. We want you to know that your support is greatly appreciated, so please continue to watch and share and listen. And remember, if your community has any events or announcements coming up, or if they're canceled due to COVID-19, please email us the details at gccommunitychat@gmail.com, and we will get that information out to the public for you just as soon as possible. Okay, we have a lot to get to tonight, and remember, if you have any questions or comments for our guests, like I said, be sure to type them in the comment section if you're watching us live on Facebook, or you can text your questions to 734-788-9319, and we will do our best to get them answered for you. All right, we're going to get Tom in here now with the latest check of the weather, and then we'll spend some time chatting with Library Director James Lenze and Board President William Werha. So stand by. Okay, let's do a check on weather with Doppler Tom. Let's see what he has in store for the rest of this week and the weekend coming up. Tom, take it away. Well, it hasn't been bad, Tom.
Yeah, it could be so much worse, but yeah, it's not. We're not doing too bad here. We saw a little bit of snow over last week, and then got a little bit colder. And like I said, it's pretty chilly tonight. But yeah, it could be much worse.
Much worse.
We're definitely dealing with kind of a. I'm not going to use the word warm. I was going to, but today was just a little bit more cooler out there. I mean, temperatures got into the low to mid 40s, and definitely a noticeable increase in temperatures. And as we get into tonight, like I said, it's going to be on the chilly side. We're going to get down into the low 30s for overnight lows. And as we get into Friday, temperatures again are going to increase back into the 40s. So another cool day out there. Mm-hmm. And as we get into the weekend, I do see this weekend being overall a dry weekend. Overall, it's also going to be a colder weekend as well. Temperatures during the daytime hours will remain in the 30s. So it's definitely going to be a cold weekend out there, and the lows over the weekend will be in the 20s. And as we get into next week, I don't really see too much inclement weather to talk about. I believe all of next week will be dry. Again, temperatures We'll start out a little bit on the chilly side and then try to warm up a little bit, using that word loosely, as we get into the end of next week. As we get into Monday, temperatures will be into the upper 30s for high temperatures. And then each day they get a little bit more each degree. So as we get into Tuesday, we'll probably get into the lower 40s. As we get into Wednesday and into Thursday, we'll probably see temperatures in the mid 40s. But we're not going to get into the 50s. We'll probably stay in the 40s as we get into late of next week. So we'll take it. I mean,
I'll take it.
It's definitely could be so much worse this time of year. And as we're in now December, and as we get into the remainder of the month, I don't really see any significant cool downs. I do see temperatures kind of fluctuating with rounds of colder air. I see temperatures, like I said, next week kind of overall in the 40s, and then the following week will probably be into the 30s. So it's going to kind of fluctuate back and forth with those temperatures, kind of in the 30s and 40s, probably for the rest of the month. And I don't really see any significant snowfall really to really talk about impacting us in the foreseeable future. So enjoy this quieter weather because as we get into the following months,
right.
I can't guarantee it. It will definitely probably get much busier with the frozen stuff out there. I don't even want to mention the word anymore as we get into next month. And like I was saying, expanding outward and talking about some other weather, it's been fairly active. We saw that winter storm move through the Great Lakes. We dealt with a little bit of snow on the backside of it. The majority of the storm missed us, and Ohio really got slammed with a whole bunch of snow. They got over a foot of snow. So again, we were fairly lucky with that storm, just brushing us with a little bit of snow. A lot of it missed us, and that storm is now gone. Overall, the systems across the United States are kind of on both coasts. We're dealing with kind of a windstorm on the West Coast with high wildfire risk out there. There's unfortunately the weather over the next few days will be fairly favorable for more wildfires to develop, with relatively low humidity values, extreme winds. I mean, we're talking winds that could be fairly strong out there, greater than 40 to 50 miles per hour.
Terrible.
So anything that develops will obviously rapidly move and spread out there. So we're thinking about California, especially because that's the state that's under the gun right now, especially Southern California, and they don't need any more. So I just wanted to briefly mention that. Overall, there's going to be a system moving all across the eastern United States with a lot of rain. And unfortunately, they're also going to be dealing with a lot of snow as well over as we get into the weekend and the next week with a nor'easter moving through that part of the neck of the woods. But like I was saying, we're right in that sweet spot in the middle where we're not going to be seeing much inclement weather out there. And the last thing I want to talk about is the end of hurricane season.
Yay.
We officially have now ended the hurricane season out there. A little caveat, if you will. Unfortunately, storms can occur outside of the window, but the good news is that I don't really see any more storms developing into the foreseeable future, but it can happen, but we don't want any more systems out there. We saw the busiest hurricane season in recorded history occurred this year, and those names were all used. We got into the Greek alphabet. We saw numerous hurricanes make landfall into the United States, especially across the Gulf Coast. So it's been a fairly busy season. I just wanted to briefly mention it. That is now gone. So we're now ending that book on the hurricane season. So that's some great news. But if you want to keep tuned to all my local weather information, just go to my website, DopplerTomsWeather.com. And especially as we get into the winter months, that's a good resource because we'll talk about snow totals and we'll talk about the temperatures and we'll talk all that on the website. So always head over there if you always want more insight into our weather.
Yeah, great website. All right, good job. Hey, I did want to mention your house.
Yes, as we're getting into December, of course, I have to put on my Christmas lights. So
yeah,
if you want to head over to my neck of the woods, it's Maplewood and Moeller, right by the Maplewood Community Center. Don't forget the shades, though; it's fairly bright.
yeah, you've added a few, that's for sure. So, yeah, we're gonna head on over there. It's at Maplewood and what again?
Moeller.
Maplewood and Moeller, right on the corner. You can't miss it.
Nope, you cannot miss it.
I think NASA said something about it too. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
they might have. I have to go double check on that.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Just a quick reminder, our show streams live every Thursday evening at 8 p.m. So we hope that you'll set aside some time to join us, and be sure to invite your friends to join in as well. Also, if you go to our Facebook page, be sure to follow us, and you'll be reminded whenever our show is streaming live. And while you're there, feel free to leave a review. We would really appreciate it. You can also get more information and contact us as well by visiting our website at gccommunitychat.com. And we hope you'll visit it. All right, let's introduce our guests for tonight. Both these gentlemen are no strangers to the show. Please welcome Garden City Public Library Director James Lenze and Board President William Werha. Let me bring them up right quick. There they are. How you doing, guys?
Doing good, Kerry. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Y'all doing well? Everybody's safe and feeling good?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate with our health so far. So
that's good.
I want to bring up a little subject that we had our meeting last night, our special board meeting.
Yep, I was in there. I listened to it.
And Marge Hickman,
Yep.
had a few questions that we were not able to come to an answer.
I'm going to bring that up on the screen right there.
So we would like to answer that tonight. And James has put together some of the technical parts, but we have income from three sources. The city, money that comes in is a pretty fixed amount.
Mm-hmm.
We get money from the state to operate our network system.
Mm-hmm.
We get money from penal fines.
Right.
And sometimes we get a fixed amount from the city and kind of a variable amount from the other two. So I'll let James go ahead and give us the information.
Okay, go ahead, James. You might as well answer that now.
So what I wanted to start with tonight, though, was just to let the residents know that the city and representatives of the library are planning to meet and sit down and talk about our differences and try to hash things out. So the mayor and the library board and council are asking residents to give us some time to sit down and talk these things through, and to hold off on comments at the next council meeting so that we don't escalate a situation and make it more difficult to have productive conversations.
Right.
So I just wanted to put that out first.
So you guys are answering all my questions already. I haven't even started.
So I think what Mr. Werha was speaking about just now was the question that Marge Hickman asked last night, which was, why the library is putting aside money from our operating millage to fund the new building. Right. And so I wanted to clarify that we call it an operating millage. It wasn't called that on the ballot. On the ballot, it was called a library millage. We refer to it as operating millage to distinguish it from the building fund millage, which we just recently passed.
So that's your actual annual budget, though, right?
Yes. So the annual budget is primarily funded through the first millage, what we call the operating millage.
Right.
But the actual ballot language said that it was to, quote, provide funds for the establishment, operation, and equipping of a free public library and for all other library purposes authorized by law.
Okay.
That was passed in 2011. Right. And then by June of 2012, the library board and city entered into a lease agreement. And in the lease agreement, both parties agreed that the library should set aside money toward the building of a new building. and they figured a minimum should be the amount that we're paying in what we're calling rent. The word rent isn't actually used in the lease agreement, but it's the money we're paying for leasing the space, whatever you want to call it. We're calling it rent.
What's that add up to then that you're sticking back in there?
So we paid for the lease agreement. We're paying the city $31,500.
Okay.
And so we're supposed to put aside an equal amount every year as a minimum toward the new building.
All right.
So as Mr. Werha pointed out, the primary source of our funding is that millage, but we get state aid, which is a little bit over $20,000 most years.
Okay.
And we get penal fines from traffic violations and so forth that are paid through the courts, and that gets distributed among all the libraries in the county.
Okay.
That varies greatly. Some years it's as low as $12,000. It's been as high as $23,000 or $24,000. So it swings from year to year. We also get a little bit of money from some of the services that we have, like faxing and photocopying. Haven't been that much of it this year because we haven't been able to provide that so much. But that's another area. All told, those other sources of funding for our budget for this year, we estimated that at $54,000.
Okay.
So the $31,500 that the library is setting aside, most of that is covered by these other sources. But there would be nothing wrong with the library setting aside the operating millage toward a new building, a portion of it.
Okay.
It works out to that $31,500 works out to about 6% of our operating budget.
Okay.
And we're giving the city about 13% of our operating budget in our various fees to the city. So, yeah, and again, I'd like to mention that every time we have a budget, we go through the same budget process that the city does. Most years we've done it along with the other departments.
Okay.
So we've been at public hearings with the other departments. And every year we've mentioned that we're putting aside this money in our designated fund, whatever amount we budgeted that particular year. So it's, it's been completely above board. There's nothing that's been being hidden from the public, or at least the public that's paying attention to budget hearings. Yeah, I know that's not everyone.
Right.
But so yeah, that kind of answers the question that she had last night. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope.
Yeah. It sounds like it. If not, she'll say something. I just want to say up front that Cheryl and I have always been an advocate and supporter for the library. We even volunteered for the used book sales and such. I think that you, James, and your staff do a remarkable job.
Thank you.
During COVID and these trying times for all of us. With that said, I am also going to have to play devil's advocate tonight.
Certainly.
Just because these are questions that are being raised by the residents as well. So, so let's get to some of the issues. And you've already mentioned some of them. Where the heck did it turn? Where did we take such a wrong turn to get to this situation? Do you know? And I'll let you answer first.
So I think that the root of the issue is a difference of opinion between the library board and the current city administration as far as whether or not the library is a department of the city.
Correct.
And I think that's the heart of the difference, all of our differences. If we're a department, I think if we all agreed that the library was a department, I believe the city would behave toward the libraries a little differently than they have been. So, but they feel that we're not.
You feel that you still are part of the city?
Yes. Yes. So
you're an elected board on your own, like a school board?
So the library board is elected, but even before they were an elected board, when they were an appointed board, the city council had no authority over the library except for the mayor appointing a board member, and with the consent of council.
Correct.
And also they determined how much of the general fund would be used to go into the library fund to budget for the library. But the board set the budget. They were told how much would come from the general fund, and the rest of the decisions were up to the library board. The library employees have never been city employees. Not from 1923 to today have they ever been a city employee. They were Wayne County employees up to 82. Then the library became a city library, and the employees were employees of the library board from that point forward. So we just have to sit down and figure out what is meant by a department, and whether or not the library meets that definition, whatever a definition we can agree on.
Right. Because
I'll interject one thing, is even when it was a county operated library, the citizens had to come up with a space. In the early days, businesses provided some of their space for the library. That's how it evolved. We ended up with a building in 1954, I think it was, and that was provided by the city and other people, and a lot of contributions from other organizations too. The building was, as I say, is put up by the citizens, really. The council provided some of the funds, but not entirely. That was the building that they sold.
So,
and the presumption is that the city provides a space for the library. And in our case with the library, when it was sold, that part stopped.
oh, okay. And they're not providing the building you're in now, are they? Or are they? You consider them providing that?
Well, from 2006 till 2012, the city provided us the space in the Maplewood Center. They didn't charge us for using that space.
Okay.
And then once we got the millage, so we had our own funding, that's when the differences of opinion really, I think, started to blossom, shall we say.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's see, the city manager, you do not work for the city manager. You work for the board, library board, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Only they can remove you.
That's correct. They hired me. They set my benefits and salary, and they can remove me.
Right.
Right.
So, but yet you still consider yourself a department of the city then?
Well, the city charter calls us a department.
Okay.
And I think the reason that that's in city charter, I believe that when the charter was developed, the residents said, these are the services that we want the city to provide for us. We want fire protection. We want police protection. We want parks and rec. We want a library. And of course we need, a clerk's office and a treasurer's office and so forth. They said, these are very important to us. We want to make sure the city provides them for us. So they lumped them all together and called them the administrative departments of the city when they wrote it into charter. Now, that's my interpretation of it. I don't know if that's if there are other interpretations out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure there will be when you meet. When is that meeting taking place? Do you know, by the way?
We're still trying to match up our different schedules, because it won't just be Mr. Werha and myself, but also Drew McMeechan who's works with the schools. He's in the admin building at the schools. So we have to find time that's available on our schedules. That also, the city manager is a busy person, and the mayor,
Right.
So we've got 5 schedules we have to mesh, and we will hopefully find a time next week sometime.
Okay.
Okay. I have a few points here. There's an ambiguity in the charter.
All right.
The charter has a statement that says Department of the Library, Director, City Manager. And then it has a part that says Governing Board is in charge of the library and elects a president and hires a staff. That's also in there. So if the city manager was reading that, maybe he thought he was in charge from the beginning. But I had an occasion to point out to him that he wasn't. And this probably started some of this material there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the ambiguities goes back to the time when the charters was adopted in 1975. What happened in 1975? The city adopted the city manager form of government. We didn't have a city manager before 1975. And at the same time, they adopted this state law to operate the library. And it has in there all the features that we were dealing with up till in the last 45 years we've been doing it. The charter adopted is 45 years old.
Yeah.
And
Been around a while.
so go ahead now. I'll step aside here.
Okay. So last night you covered that you did have the Zoom meeting, and I did attend that and listen to the whole meeting. I thought it was presented very well, and it was great to see that 3 members of the city council and the mayor were there.
Yes, and I thought there was a good dialogue.
Great dialogue.
So I thought it was very beneficial.
Yeah, and to me that showed that that they are willing to listen and they are showing an interest in coming to a resolution as well. According to the meeting last night, both sides have agreed, like you said, to meet. That's correct, right?
Yes.
And you don't know when it's going to take place, but hopefully next week sometime.
Right.
Let's see. Attending will be you, James, and you, Paul, and then Drew McMeacham. Is he like your treasurer or financial person, or?
No, he's the vice president of the library board.
Okay, vice president. Okay,
Right.
good.
But he's the CFO of the school board or the school district.
Right. I believe he's been on the show maybe once or twice. I think he came once with Derek. I'm not sure. All right, so let's get to the numbers. Let's get them straight first, okay?
Okay.
The library has a $591,000 budget, correct?
Yes.
That's the millage that you talked about.
Well, the millage plus
plus
about 54,000 from other sources. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Then you have 620,000 in the bank. In reserve.
Right. That's our reserve fund, and the majority of that is our designated fund for the new building.
Okay. But then so then you have another 548,000 for your new building.
That's the second millage. That's the building fund or the building millage.
Right.
And this is the first year that we're collecting on that.
Right.
So the board realized that saving $30,000 to $50,000 a year was not going to get us to a new building in our lifetime.
Right. Right.
So that's why they asked the residents to approve the second millage that would be dedicated specifically for the new building.
Gotcha. So that's for 10 years, correct?
Correct.
10 years.
Yeah, and we feel that with that millage and with continuing to put aside hopefully 30 to 50,000 a year from our other revenue, we hope that we'll be able to build maybe even in year 9, but definitely by year 10.
Okay, so Okay, that sounds good. Hopefully it'll be in our lifetime, huh?
Yeah.
At least see somebody stick a shovel on the ground. All right, so and then every year you get another 591,000 to spend to operate the library, and another 548,000 to put away for the building. Correct?
Yes. Mhm. Unless tax values take
Right.
another dive,
Right.
which, knock on wood, that doesn't happen.
So whatever's left at the end of the year of the 591,000 that you put in the bank, correct?
Well, yeah, it goes into our reserve fund, just like,
Reserve.
the city's finances. If their revenue exceeds expenditures, the balance goes into the fund balance.
Right, right.
Right.
So then you mentioned that you only budget $3,500 a year for programs, yet you have that kind of money. People are wondering, why only $3,500 a year for programs? It seems that more money for programs should not be an issue for the library then.
So it's a matter of priorities, and it's discussed every year when we go through our budget process.
Sure.
When I came back from when I worked at the Inkster Library for 2 years, when I came back to Garden City, I discussed with the board, because while I was gone is when the millage passed and all of that. So
Yeah.
I came back to a different situation. So I had a discussion with the board. I let them know how Inkster was funding their new library, which was they had voter approved 2 mills, and it was just for all library purposes, whatever library purposes. And their board decided right from the start that half of that every year would go toward a new building, and the other half is what they would operate under. But that half they were operating under did not give them funds to properly staff the library or to run any programs, and they were hardly able to buy very many new books or anything for the collection. So they were basically having a building that was open to their public with a collection that wasn't growing and a couple of computers. But they felt that saving as much as they could, they would be able to build their building sooner. So that was their approach.
I got it.
Our library board said, no, our residents approved a millage. They want library service. We have to put that first, but we do need to save toward a new building too. So they came up with a balance of how they wanted to approach that. Following that direction, I took care of take care of your big bills first. You take care of paying your staff. You take care of the bills you can't ignore, like our payments to the city, our payments to our cooperative, utilities, all of that. You take care of all those expenses that you can't really trim anyway. And then with what's left over, you look at, okay, how much are we going to spend for new materials? How much are we going to spend for programs? So we could dip into the savings in order to do more in programs. But when you dip into your savings, you're robbing your future self, so it's a balancing act, and the board welcomes any public input during our budget process. And we're happy for anyone to come and
Okay.
We,
Marge Hickman, James has another question. What is the total income that the library receives yearly?
So it varies. You've got the we're budgeting this year that'll be just over 591,000 for our
operating.
Yeah, and then the 548,000 for the building fund. So we have 2 funds that we have with the city. We have the library fund and the building fund. They're the 2 different millages
for a new building, right?
Right. So that 548 is dedicated to the new building. We can't touch that for anything
right
else.
Okay. All right, I had a question that was emailed to me today from somebody that had watched the council meeting. If the library has $620,000 in reserves in the bank, with at least $300,000 of which you can do anything with that you want, why did you go to the city council meeting and tell the city council that you will have to cut programs if the city charged you the small fee to use rooms that don't belong to the library?
So my comments were based on the fact that I've got a budget and I have to follow my budget.
Within the budget.
So my budget says I have $35,000 for programming. If I have to use a chunk of that and they keep saying a small fee for the rooms and $10, $15, $20, that's an hourly rate. Our programs, we have to pay for the hour setup, the hour cleanup, plus the program itself. So you're looking at 3 hours per program. So now it's $45 to $60 per program. And that adds up when you're doing as many programs as we do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was looking at, I've got my budget. This is what I'm allowed to spend on programming. If I have to spend a lot of it on just the rooms, then I'm going to have to cut back on programs. It is true that we could approach the board and have them, I could propose to the board that they adjust my budget.
Yeah.
But then we're looking at, okay, what are we going to cut, or are we going to borrow from our savings and and slow down the process of getting the new building? They would probably tell me, well, find a cut somewhere else in the budget. So it would be fewer new books or fewer access to ebooks or something along those lines. I don't know exactly what they would. I would have to give them several options, and they would tell me what to do.
Right. You had also mentioned that Wayne County, who does Meals on Wheels, doesn't pay, do they? They don't pay for that room. And
to the best of my knowledge, they do not. They run several programs out at the Maplewood Center. Meals on Wheels is the big one.
What they do.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not suggesting that they pay.
Right.
But I'm saying if they're going to charge any non-city entity, which they consider us to be, well, Wayne County is even more of a non-city entity than we are. So, and when you charge the library, you're just moving residents' tax dollars from the library fund to the general fund. It's just moving it from one pot to the other. But if you're charging the county, you're bringing money in from outside the city. So if you're going to charge only one of the two organizations, I would say charge the county, bring money in.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I want to point out
Go ahead, Paul.
at this point that the city, the library has met all expectations from the state of operating a top level library, except for one thing, the space we don't have.
Yeah.
And
that's why you're building, right?
The city can provide us more space and make it a full library in regard to all of the things that the state asks us to have. But we're kind of crammed in there now, and the idea that we have to pay for more space, and we're already paying for space, and it just doesn't sound right to me anyway.
Okay. Yeah, you guys do a great job with what you have. That's for sure. So, just to follow up on that one email, they said it seems like with that much money, it isn't the city's fault that you would have to cut programs. So that was just the follow up.
Well, that would be a decision that the library board would have to make. I can't. They give me a budget, and I do my best to keep my expenses within that budget.
Within the budget, yeah. So, playing the devil's advocate, do you feel that you'd have to cut programs because of the city or not?
Well, right now, this year, probably not, because I don't know when we're going to be able to do programs again.
Yeah.
But if we're able to, especially, our adult programs, we get a lot of people who are in what they call the vulnerable age bracket for COVID, and we don't want to put children at risk either by doing doing the children's programming in person at this stage. So I don't know when we're going to be able to start doing in-person programming again.
I know.
So we may be able to get through this fiscal year without having to cut any programs, and we'll have a budget process before then. And if we have to factor in charges for the rooms, then we'll factor that in. And I'm not sure what we'll have to cut, because I'm sure the board's going to want me to still set aside money toward the new building, because that is a top priority, while still providing the level of service that we are. So,
but you are open to adjusting the budget if you need be. I mean,
I am willing to present options to the board along those lines. Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's see. If you put away $31,500 into the bank every year by contract with the city, and in 8 years you have $620,000 instead of $250 in reserves, why do you still put so much money in the bank when you now have a millage for your new building? I don't.
So when Drew McMeacham was giving those figures last night, he was not speaking from data he had in front of him. He knew we were putting at least $31,500 a year. Many of the years we were putting away $50,000 toward the new building. So the amount that, and I don't have that figure in front of me tonight, but I know that the amount that we set aside for the new building was higher than what he had estimated last night. He was giving a low ball. It was at least this amount, that 8 times 31,500.
Okay.
But
could that money be used for more programs, or no?
Well, again, it could, but the board's intent is they want to make sure we have some money that's fluid within that fund balance. So if a catastrophe happens, for some reason the building becomes unusable, Maplewood building, and we have to relocate the library, we'll need funds to do that. So we have to have some funds in our fund balance that are not restricted. But when it gets closer to the time when we can start construction, the library board wants to use as much as we have in fund balance to go toward that new building, while still being prudent. But that's why we're putting away what we can every year.
Lynn Hammond wants to know, does anyone know whether they charge any departments of the city for room usage at Maplewood?
I don't believe they charge departments. No.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. I know the Commission on Aging met there, and I know that we're not charged as far as I know. So, but
so that goes back to the heart of the matter: are we a department or not? So that's what we have to really work out with the city.
Yeah. So, was there ever an option to expand where you are now, add on to that? I know we talked about this last time you were on, and it would have been quite costly, right?
So yes, when the library board hired the architectural firm to do a space needs study, and then we hired them to come in and draw plans for a new library, we had them investigate adding on to the Maplewood building as one option and building brand new as another option. And the cost benefit analysis came down in favor of building new. At the same time, the city manager did give us a drawing that he made that he said would cost about $1 million. But he didn't attend any of the meetings with the architectural firm. He didn't attend any of our planning or discussions. So he came up with an idea that met his vision of what the library could be. and it did not necessarily mesh with what the library board, library staff, and the experts that we hired told us was possible.
Yeah,
So, but the board, I did show them what the city manager had presented. They chose to go a different route.
Right. And there's a question of asbestos too, I believe, right?
So the city did have a firm come through and tag all of the asbestos in the building, and so it's all identified where it is, and the city knows what needs to be done, if anything. I think if there was construction, there's a possibility, if we added on to the building, there would be a possibility that there would need to be some asbestos removal.
Right.
How much, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's
but I think that I'm pretty sure the city has estimates on what would need to be done and what it would cost, because the city manager has also looked at ways of improving the whole building there. He wanted to do some major changes to how that whole building is set up. I don't know where the funds would come from to do that, but it was something that was discussed. So I know that they went through and looked at the asbestos issue.
Okay. I'm just curious as to why you guys got revenue from library fines. Why was that discontinued?
So that's a new trend within libraries. It was pointed out a couple of years ago in some studies that the main reason libraries were charging fines, all from when they started doing it, was the idea that if you told people it would cost them if they're late, they would bring their books back on time. Well, studies have been done that show it doesn't make a difference. People are going to be late or they're going to be on time, whether there's a fine or not. And what happens for a lot of people, though, is the people who are late, they build up so many fines that you then tell them you either have to pay your fines now or you won't be able to borrow anymore. Right. And for a lot of people, they just say, okay, we're not going to borrow anymore. We don't want that. What our main concern is that the materials get back so that other people can borrow them.
Yeah.
And so if the fines aren't helping to make that happen, then we're putting up a barrier for people. I mean, I feel especially bad when a child comes in and can't borrow because their parent got blocked on their own card, so then used the child's card to check materials out, and then got that card blocked, and now the child can't borrow. And
so are you finding, James, that you're not imposing the fines? Are you finding that people are taking advantage of that and keeping the books in that longer, or no?
No. There's still people bring them back on time.
Okay.
For the most part, there are still some people who are habitually a little late, but for the most part, things come back at the same rate that they did when we did charge fines.
That's interesting.
And the other aspect of it is when you're charging fines, your staff at the circulation desk, and it's usually your lowest paid staff, they have to deal with people who get upset when they're told you can't check out now because you've got too many fines. Oh, yeah. And they take a lot of abuse at the desk, and you're spending staff time, and then a supervisor has to come out and help resolve the situation and calm the situation. And so you're spending the staff time over a small amount of money when it comes down to it. You get rid of the fines, you get rid of all of those negative conversations that are happening at the circulation desk. Yeah. You find it's a more welcoming and pleasant environment. And we're not alone in doing this. Many of the libraries in the Wayne County and the TLN network have gone fine-free. Redford, Milford, Taylor, I believe Southgate, I'm not 100% sure. And even large systems like the Chicago Public Library got rid of them. And they brought in a lot of revenue. It was still like 1% of their total revenue, but it was big chunk of change when you're dealing with the whole city of Chicago.
Well, how much
And they got rid of it.
how much revenue do you feel you gave up by doing that?
So it was approximately $5,000 a year.
Okay. I mean, that's decent.
Yeah, I mean, it is. But when I looked at how much staff time was being spent arguing over fines or resolving issues about fines,
Yeah.
I think that we spent more than $5,000 in staff time trying to collect fines. So, and a lot of the other libraries that are still doing fine collections, they pay a collection agency to help them get fines paid.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that I just have never seen the value in doing that either. So
Yeah, Lynn says there's no fines in Oregon and out west even in general.
yeah, it's a trend. It's picking up steam among libraries. Yeah.
Lisa Garrett wants to know, does the city manager have any architectural background experience or specific library needs? I don't think I can answer that. Can you, James?
I cannot answer that.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. He also wants to know, did he speak with the library to ask what they needed when he drew up his own idea?
No, he was not involved in the conversations
Yeah,
with the library board.
Right.
He has his vision of what a modern library should be, and that's what he used to develop his plans. How he developed his vision of a library, I don't know. I mean, he may have done a lot of research that I'm not aware of, but it didn't meet what he had drawn up and proposed. Did not meet what we were hearing from the experts who came in to help us set our plan.
Well, maybe when you guys meet with them, you can get an answer to Lisa's question.
I think we'll just tackle the main issues.
Yeah, I think so. Kim Marquette, something good news here. Kim Marquette from the Straight Farmhouse. The new children's program funded by the Kiwanis sounds wonderful for those kids 0 to 5. Thank you for all you and your staff are doing for Garden City kids.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, we're really excited about that.
Want to expand on that a little? Or?
Yeah, so the Kiwanis Club has a committee that's called Young Children Priority 1. Mm-hmm. And throughout the state, Kiwanis clubs are emphasizing that program this year. So our Kiwanis Club came to me, and I'm a member, but I was at one of the meetings, and the committee members for the Young Children Priority 1 asked me, they presented me with an idea they had of something they could do with the library. And I said, well, let me take it back to my youth librarian and see what she says. Mm-hmm. And I did, and she came up with a completely different idea that blew all of our minds. We thought this was just fabulous. Yeah. And what it is story time to go. So, in normal times, the library would offer a story time for preschool children 0 to 5 years old. And they come in, the librarian reads the story to them, has some activities for them, some song, dance, finger plays, and then reads another story. It's a real good program that introduces kids to sitting together and enjoying stories together and activities together.
Wow,
it's really great. So she said she developed a way that parents could basically check out a story time. Mm-hmm. So each kit would have a theme, say colors, and they would have some books on that theme, and then some activities and songs and instructions for the parent on how to use all of these various things to develop the skills that children need to grow into book lovers. Mm-hmm. So it's a really nifty idea. She's actually got them all ready to go now. I was supposed to let the Kiwanis Club know if I didn't make the lunch meeting today, but I was supposed to let them know that the kits that they sponsored are all ready to go and can be checked out at any time now.
Oh, nice.
She also came up with another program she actually started prior to this that she got through a grant from the Library Services and Technology Act, LSTA.
Wow.
It's called Reading Booster Packs, and this is aimed at children from grades kindergarten through 3,
Okay.
3rd grade, and it's aimed at helping struggling readers master the skills that they need to pass 3rd grade reading tests.
Wow.
So
She's done her homework, eh?
yeah, and so the kits, they have books and activities. Some of them have games that are help build the skills of fluency and comprehension and phonics and so forth. And each kit is graded. So if your child is reading at a kindergarten level, there's the kindergarten vocabulary, phonics, and so forth. If it's your child is at 2nd grade reading level, you can grab the one that's for grade 2. It's a fabulous idea, and we're hoping that the word gets out and parents start checking them out. We've had several parents check some of these out, and they've been really happy with them. We've gotten good reviews on them.
Well, that's great. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Kim. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
If
you got time, I've got a couple of new things that we're doing on the adult side also. We got a Library Services and Technology Act grant to provide Chromebooks, which are laptops.
Yeah, I had that in the notes. Yep.
Yeah, and Wi-Fi hotspots. So we know that we have right now we don't have any computer access for the public, but we do have these computers, laptops you can check out, and Wi-Fi network hotspots. So if you don't have internet in your home, you can check out a hotspot.
How long are they able to check those out for?
We check them out for 1 week.
1 week.
Yeah, and when you bring it back, if we have at least one that hasn't been checked out, we can check yours back out to you. That saves us from having to sanitize it.
Sanitize in between, correct?
Right, but we want to make sure that there's at least one in stock so that we're giving other people an opportunity to access them.
How many do you have on hand total?
I believe it's 7 Chromebooks and 8 hotspots.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
Yep.
Nice. I did have a comment from Cheryl. As a taxpayer and library supporter, I voted yes on the building fund. I voted yes on the library fund. However, we also pay city taxes a lot. So I feel the city needs to do their part in overseeing expenses. Parks and Rec Department oversees Maplewood expenses. Bottom line, Maplewood rooms are rentable to bring in revenue. She's torn. She sees both sides.
And I understand that. In 2006, when we were moved into our building was sold and we were moved into the Maplewood Center.
Yeah.
The Maplewood Center was run by the Parks and Rec Department, and they were bringing in $17,000 to $20,000 a year in room rentals for parties or whatever residents needed them for, meeting space, whatever. That continued even while we were there using rooms for our programs. So the protocol was, if a room was available, in other words, if Parks and Rec didn't need it for something and it hadn't already been booked by another city department or a resident, then the library could reserve the room for our programs. And it worked out well, and the city still brought in $17,000, $20,000, somewhere in that range every year. So,
well, that goes along the line of Elaine Salter's comment. She's the vice president of the Garden City Business Alliance. If the room is available, why not let them use it? Rentals would come first, of course, but if it's available, why are they losing? What are they losing by letting them use the space? It's a good comment.
Yeah, and that's going to be part of our discussion with the city manager also.
And Cheryl says, shh, I haven't, it's still out. All right, Marge Hickman. They have not charged for room rentals because of the grants that Monica Fulton secured for Maplewood. Now that rooms can be rented by Parks and Rec, which has taken over Maplewood, we will have to see who is going to be charged for room rentals. From what I understand, this is new regarding room rentals. I would like to see Parks and Rec making money so they can do more programs for our kids, grandkids.
Yeah, but again, the Monica's the community resource department was created when
Yes.
Monica saved the Maplewood building from closing. She got these grants. That was in 2011.
Yeah. Grant writer.
Darwin, City Manager Darwin McClary at the time zeroed out the budgets for both the library and Parks and Rec that year.
Wow.
And Monica said, well, let's not close the building. I can get some grants. And she whipped up some grants, proposals, got them approved. The sticking point was when she originally did that, the space that she was claiming she needed could only be used for grant purposes. So, so the library used our space. She used her space for the rest of the building for her grants, and there were no room rentals. And that lasted, I think it was about 2 years, maybe 3. And then the grant parameters changed, and she was able to start letting organizations start using some of the rooms again. Like Kiwanis was having their board meetings there for a while, right, while Monica was still running the building, and there were a few other activities going on. But yeah, so it was only 2 or 3 years where it was under the Community Resources Department, and but before that, it was Parks and Rec, and they rented rooms, and they also let the library use them. So
yeah, Lynn says it, and of course it should be fair, though. Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Cheryl has another comment. In hindsight, it appears that the major issues between the library and the city simply comes down to communication, actually the lack of communication, rather than discussing the issues at council meeting. Everyone should have met when the recent changes were being discussed by the city. Just my opinion. It hurt my heart to see the negativity at our recent council meeting. And yeah, well, that's what you're going to do now. You're going to sit down, you're going to hash it out. And
right.
You've already made a plea. Don't bring it up at the council meeting.
Right, and then that's the reason, because we don't need to make the city look bad. We want to
social media. It's not going to be solved on Facebook or anything like that either, right?
Exactly.
So okay, Jerry Thorne from Party Animal Travel. Room rentals in Westland have been funded remodel projects of the library with growth without going to the taxpayers. Okay, I don't quite understand that, but I
think the Westland Library maybe lets residents rent rooms, meeting rooms at their library. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he may be talking about revenue that the library has brought in that way.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Maybe you want to explain that a little better, Jerry. I don't know. Sorry about that. I know he's partying with the party animals. So. All right. Marge, I know that the city offered half price to the library. I do not know if they offered that to any other group. Again, from what I know about the new room rental, this is just getting started.
And that is true. When they told us we were going to have to start paying for rooms, they did stipulate it would be at half price, which is where they come up with the small fee of $15, $20. But again, that's per hour, and we need it for 3 hours for each program. So it does add up pretty quickly. And they also, originally, they did not make an exception for library board meetings. But when I made my initial request, Doc did come back fairly quickly with the response of he wouldn't charge for the library board meetings. So just so we have fair information out there.
Jerry did get back with us. Taxpayers in Westland can rent the rooms, and the library lets organizations like Rotary, women's clubs, and other organizations take over the room for short periods of time and pays rental fees to the library. These funds go directly into the library to help with the growth of their programs. Yeah,
and if we had our own rooms, we could maybe do that also, but
yeah, it's a little different.
We can't in our current situation.
Yeah, it's a little different. Now, and then Paul, you brought up a good question too last night about when you do the used book sales, what about the hallways?
Yeah,
I mean,
that question has not been answered either. Or the after summer reading program thing where we practically take over the whole building at that
Yeah.
point.
oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's all the way up and down the hall. So
Under the new system that they have, I don't know how we'll ever do it.
yeah, okay, all right. Well, look. So in closing, James, everything pretty much boils down to you say you pay rent, they say you don't. It's for them being your fiscal agent, and also they want to charge you for additional rooms, and you say that you really don't want to do that, right?
So yeah, and we found where some of the confusion was coming regarding the rent and fiscal agency fees. The library has actually two contracts with the city. One is our fiscal agency agreement, and the other is our lease agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Mr. Doherty did not have a copy of the fiscal agency agreement. I'm not sure why he didn't have a copy of it, but he was only looking at the one document, and in it, it refers to the city as the fiscal agent. So I think that's where the confusion came in as to whether it was a fiscal agency fee or not in the lease agreement. So we've cleared that up. Everybody's got the same contracts now, both contracts, and we're all looking over the same documents. That should go a long way toward clearing up some of that confusion.
Yeah. Cheryl says future new library, extra rooms for rent to rent out. Good idea.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Lynn says, which if the library is considered a department, it won't matter like all other city departments that aren't charged. That we know of anyway. That's true.
Right.
By the way, there is also kind of a dispute over thinking the city wants to get rid of the library.
No, that has not been any part of the discussion.
Yeah, that's not an issue.
They are trying to clean up the ordinances, and they're discussing repealing the ordinance that establishes the library.
Right.
The library board would rather see them correct the language of that ordinance, which should have been done in 2011 to show that we have an elected board instead of an appointed board. That change should have been made in 2011. For whatever reason, it wasn't. The board feels that the ordinance should just be cleaned up.
Yeah.
But maybe if we can, once we can resolve whether or not we're a department, that will go a long way toward resolving what to do with that ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So do you believe that the library is a separate entity though?
It's a matter of definition. So I don't think they are, because I see in the charter that we're a department of the city. So I think that the taxpayers of the city intended that the library be part of the administration of the city, be at the table where plans are made for improving the city, and be a part of making the city as great as it can be. So I think that was the intent of the residents, and I think that's what they meant by department. And so in that regard, I don't believe we're a separate entity, although I will agree we do have an elected board, and that the board doesn't answer to city council, and the library employees are not city employees. So it's much like the school board too, really, right? I mean, it kind of is, but not. If you look at when the school board puts a millage out there, it's shall the school board tax you. When we ask for a millage, it's shall the city's tax limitations be raised. So, it's the library board itself is not a taxing authority. The school board is. The school board can get their own bonds. In that sense, we can't.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Anything else that you guys would like to cover? Get out there for the Paul. You have anything?
No, I think we've covered most of it.
It was a good show. I really enjoyed it. I think we got a lot of information out there.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, Kerry.
Well, we always like having you guys on, and thanks for coming on, discussing this with our listeners. I wish you the best of luck with the meeting. I hope everything goes well, and these matters are resolved not only for you, but for the entire community, because I know that it's weighing on a lot of residents' minds too, you know. So, and please, if you'll let me know how it goes, give me an update. We'll
Will
get you
do.
back on the show, okay? And we can update our listeners.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to let you guys go and get some rest. Thank you.
You.
Again. Take care. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. Wow. A lot of information there. I hope you all enjoyed that and we answered your questions. And we shall see what happens after the meeting. I hope they keep us informed, and then I will pass the information on to you. I did want to do the COVID numbers here, which is never a pleasant part of the show, but I got the county numbers here. The total confirmed cases are 380,343. Total deaths today were 9,500, or total deaths so far, 9,580. Daily confirmed cases for today, 7,146. And total deaths, 175, of which 112 of those were identified during a vital records review. So still way too high, way too high. We're not doing enough. All right, numbers for us, Garden City, we had 10 cases, which is down. We have a total of 820 so far confirmed total. We had 0 deaths today, and we remain with 17 deaths. And I'm only going to do Westland. I'm not going to do everybody else because it's too depressing. Westland had 48 today, which is high. They're at 2,634 total, 0 deaths, and they remain at 110 deaths total. So all in all, pretty sad. I'm telling you, we're heading for another lockdown if things don't happen quickly here and we turn this around. It's not looking good. So we all need to do our part. We need to wash our hands, wear our masks, and socially distance, physical distance. Stay home if you can. Avoid the crowds and do whatever you can to do your part. Okay? All right, we're not going to do announcements. We're at 1 hour and 14 minutes into the show, so there really isn't a lot to announce anyway. Hey, have you considered being a guest on our show? We'd love to have you, or maybe you know someone who might be interested. If so, it's very easy. You can contact us through our website at gccommunitychat.com. Send us your name, email address, and a brief message, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. Or you can also message us on Facebook. During this time, you can do the show remotely and safely from the comfort of your home or office, just like we did tonight. Maybe you own a business or belong to an organization. You'd like to share your information with us and the surrounding communities. If so, contact us today. We look forward to hearing from you. All right, let's see what we got up here. Barb Reddy, how you doing? Lynn Ham, thank you for joining us. Richard Werbelski from Chubb's Smokehouse Catering. How are you? Who else we got in here? Jerry Thorne from Party Animal Travel. Marge Hickman, thank you all for your questions. Greatly appreciated. Mrs. Chat, you were busy. Elaine Salter, Vice President of the Garden City Business Alliance. Thank you. Lisa Marie Garrett, thank you for joining us. A lot of people. Kim Marquette from the Straight Farmhouse. Let's see. Patty Fix, how are you? Good to see you. Sarah Young Rafi from the school board. Derek Parton, who's that? How you doing, Derek? My son, Derek. Always great to have him on board. Tina Wing was in there. I think I mentioned Barb Reddy. If I missed anybody, I apologize. Kelly Kerwin, Mayor Pro Tem. Tim, how are you? When you coming on the show, Kelly? Let's see, what do you got? Due to COVID, many have lost jobs. If anyone would like to donate to the food pantry but cannot get up there to drop it off, I am more than happy to set up a pickup time with you and drop it off. We had a retired city employee who just donated 4 frozen turkeys. Wow, that's awesome, Kelly. So they should just contact you via Facebook, huh? Look for Kelly Kerwin and just message you on Facebook. That would probably be the best. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Yeah, I thought it was very informative too, and I hope that the city and the library can really get together and iron these things out. That's for sure. I believe their lease is up in 2022, so they're going to have to really sharpen the pencil, I guess, and see what they can do. Lisa Kuhn, how are you? Sherry Misfud, appreciate you coming on. Kelly, or city email. Okay. What's your city email? You want to put that up there? And people contact you to for their donations. Lynn Hammond, yes. Great show. Okay. All right. And with that said, I think we're ready to call this a podcast. Special thanks to Garden City Library Director James Lenze and Board President William Werhan. You did a great job under the difficult times, that's for sure. For a lot more information on the library, you can go to gardencitylib.org. gardencitylib.org. They got a lot of information over there, so you can check out their website. Also, thanks to my fantastic co-host, Dr. Tom Iwinski. Mike, we miss you. I'm going to help you out and try and get you on virtually. I'll help you out as best I can because we got to get you back on the show, buddy. Let's see. Sherry Missed, thank you. Love your show. Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. If you guys want to go over to facebook.com/GC chat, I'd appreciate a review. If you want to do a review, I would appreciate it. That helps me out. Let me know what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. I don't care. Kelly Kerwin. Okay. It's KER Wink at gardencitymi.org. Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Everybody will see that in the chat room, and hopefully you'll get lots of emails. Appreciate what you do, Kelly. And let's see. Did I get a text? Sound like I got a text, maybe. No. Can you thank everyone who contributes to our food drive on Saturday? Oh yeah, the Garden City Business Alliance did a food drive for the food pantry Saturday at the Straight Farmhouse. And Elaine wanted me to thank everyone who contributed. They also sold Goodfellow newspapers there. And it was a pretty good turnout from what I understand. So we thank you for that. Let's see what else we got here. A few more comments you missed. No, I got them. Cheryl telling me. You see Elaine's comment. Yeah, I saw it. I just did it. Lynn's brother from Oregon is watching. Well, hello, Lynn's brother from Oregon. Appreciate that. That's awesome. I don't think we've had a viewer from Oregon lately. Hey, next week, I'm trying to get a guest on. You may be familiar with him. He's been a good friend of mine. He was a mentor of mine when I was on Talk Shoe. Dave AC, his name's Dave Cooper. He's Dave AC online. And he is in the United Kingdom. And him and I talk once in a while. And I'm trying to get him on the show for next week. And we're going to talk about the COVID vaccine that was approved already for the United Kingdom. And we'll see if he's going to get the vaccine and what people are thinking over there across the pond. And should be an interesting show all the way from England. So I hope we can get that on next week. All right. I want to thank everyone for your support, watching and listening to us every week. It's very much appreciated. Remember, this show will be available right after we sign off on facebook.com/GC chat. And then a little later on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/community chat show. I don't know if you're aware of it, but we do have a channel on YouTube, so you might want to go over there and check that out too. Just search for GC Community Chat. Be sure to click on the red subscribe button over there on YouTube. We would really appreciate that. Check them out, especially if you tuned in late tonight, that's for sure, because there was a lot of information about the library. And as always, what we do at the end of the show, we want to thank all the healthcare workers, first responders, police and fire, everyone on the front lines who serve and protect us every day. We can't thank you enough for what you do. Be safe, and we want you to know that you and your families are in our thoughts and prayers every day. And when you see any of these heroes, please let them know how much you really appreciate them, because, boy, it's a tough job out there, especially now. They're seeing more and more cases, more and more death, and it's just a sad situation. So, all right, remember, the success of a community depends on the community, so please support your local businesses. Boy, that's another thing. We need to support these businesses now more than ever, but do it safely. That means maintain your distance and mask up. If they say masks are required, please wear your mask. They need that support now more than ever, because it's tough times, really tough times, especially your restaurants. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Dirk Werhan, Oren Werhans, love the show and the library. Thank you, Dirk. I really appreciate that. Hope you tune in more often. I'd love to have you. Always looking for new viewers, that's for sure. And if you see something, say something. Look out for one another out there. For all your weather information, be sure to head on over to DrTomsWeather.com. He's got a great user-friendly website over there. We will see you back here December 10th, right here live on Facebook. Let's see what else we got here. Thanks, Carrie. You're the best. Oh, anytime, Lynn. You know that. My brother from Oregon's watching. Yep. Awesome. Let's see. We hope that you'll join us next week. Please be safe. So until next time, thanks for listening. Stay tuned, stay safe, mask up, and good night. Take care, guys.